Welcome back to Everything Whiskey. I'm Macallan.
I'm Sam.
And today we're doing something different. We're having a look at our top 10 whiskies that can be used as gifts for Christmas.
Alrighty, so yeah, as Kelly said today, this is our list of what we think you should be giving as a good whiskey gift, but maybe not like the regular, Jim Beams and Johnny Walker Reds and stuff. Something that's got a little bit more of personality and
character.
Something that they can really, I don't know, just enjoy a bit more and explore a bit more, and not just be like, oh yeah, Johnny, I've had that at a bar one time. Just something different. Russell's 10. We've already got it poured. Russell's 10 was, will I call it your favourite bourbon of the year? Or
it's one of my favourite bourbons, yeah.
This year we really got into the Wild Turkey Distillery, which this is from. It's from Eddie Russell. And the Russell's Reserve line is fantastic. We're going to go into more depth with just the Russell's line in general in another episode. But the Russell's 10, I think, is a fantastic, addition to the lineup if your friend likes bourbon or most likely is into bourbon. If they order like a Jim Beam and Coke or even on the rocks,
just has classic bourbon.
It's really classic. There's like a touch of that rye spiciness, but nothing overpowering. It's only 40%.
It's very nice body as well for 40%.
45% actually, so it's a tiny step up, but nothing that should be like groundbreaking or
for sure.
Change anything too dramatically. But I think it's just a good, it's like a very good quality but affordable lower tier bourbon. Not lower tier as in like crap, I mean lower tier as in just like more approachable, I think. I think this one is quite good for that. We're going to be giving Australian prices just because that's where we live, so it's probably best we just stick with that. I know America, you can probably get pretty much everything on this list cheaper, but
probably under $30 US to be honest.
So it's 70 Australian dollars, ballparked in Australia. It can be higher, you might get it lower, but it's about $70 in Australia. So yeah, it's enough that it's like warrants being a gift, because you don't want to spend $30 on a 30 Aussie dollars on a whiskey as a gift. It might be a bit too bottom of the barrel, forgive the pun, but I think 70 is probably a good mark where it's not too expensive that you'd say nah, I'm not buying. I'm not doing that for for a gift, but it's expensive enough to warrant being a gift. But yeah, so that's our first one. That's a bourbon. We've got I think another bourbon somewhere in the mix, but move on.
All right, so our second whiskey, they're not really ranked in any.
No, there's no order. It's just where we.
Our 10 whiskies. Comes in as a Glenfarclas 18.
This makes a fantastic gift whiskey, is because it's got that like wow factor of this is a pretty highly aged Scotch, which is just something that people who even people who don't really drink Scotch still know is like that's cool. It's a good gift. So
and people that don't drink it, they'll be like 18 years. Oh my god.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh cool, that's awesome. Even if they don't really drink it, they can have it on the bar cart. It looks good. They can offer it to people when they come over. Yeah. It's still something they'll value, even if they're not into the flavour, which is always going to be part of it if you're buying whiskies for people. Even if you're buying it for people who are like definite whiskey drinkers, there's always a chance it's just not their flavour. Yeah. But I think Glenfarclas really does offer fantastic pricing for quite high age statement whiskies.
Yeah.
Now this is the liter version. You can get it cheaper for the 700ml bottle, but it goes for about 125 in Australia for the liter version.
So obviously less.
Obviously a lot less if you're getting it.
And that's extremely good for an 18-year-old whiskey.
But exactly. So in Australia, like you'll struggle to go, I'd say short of 200 if you.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say you struggle to get below 250 for an 18-year-old. But Glenfarclas is one of the few distilleries which do offer good age statements for good prices.
Yeah.
Now flavour-wise, it's pretty regular for a Highland. It's got the malty funk, but it's not got too much of a malty funk, and it's got a more friendly kind of like overall palate. If you're comparing it to something like maybe a Highland Park, so many voice breaks. Yeah, so it's got more friendly flavors. I'd say it has like more of a floral kind of, like maybe honeysuckle, honey itself.
It's very
malty biscuits.
It's very friendly and approachable.
Yeah,
I think that's why we've put it on here, as well as the age statement.
Yeah,
it's impressive, but it's also not. I don't know,
it's not doing anything weird. Yeah, it's 43%. I think a lot of the time when you go up in age, you often kind of deviate from flavors that people know, that's just what, flavors don't get better as they age, but they do change. So you're kind of not wanting, kind of run the risk of getting notes that no one's tried before and they might not like it. But this one, while it still tastes old, it doesn't taste like it's been sitting in a barrel too long or it's gotten weird or anything like that. It's still very friendly. Alright, so next one we're going with is a Japanese one. Every time we go Japanese with anything, you got to keep in mind that at the moment, buying Japanese means there's going to be a little bit of money involved just because of the scarcity and the kind of just popularity of it. It's in a decline in regards to supply because of an incline in popularity, which equals more money. So this one, I think, was one of our first whiskies.
This was my first whiskey.
Yeah, and mine was the Hakushu. Now, with Japanese whiskey, apart from what I just said in regards to pricing and popularity, they're really quite, I think I've heard people coin it as the white wine of whiskey because they are floral, fruity and friendly, which tends well to newcomers. So with Nika, you can find things that are a bit more Scottish-like in regards to malt and very slight smokiness. Suntory are probably safe. There's not really anything I've found that I would think is particularly, I don't know, like it's quite friendly overall.
I mean, obviously there's malt in it, but it's obviously very approachable.
Yeah.
For our first whiskey, this drew us in.
Yeah, exactly.
That provides that indication.
Exactly. I think that's a good point to make, that it was our first whiskey and it did draw us in.
And it's pretty complex for our first whiskey.
Yeah.
So it's complexity. It's very honeysuckle. It's not very malty, but there's obviously malt in it.
A little bit, yeah.
And overall, very nice whiskey.
Floral, sweet.
Yeah, floral, sweet.
It's just nice. And I think gift-wise, it's a good idea because, as I said before, Japanese whiskey is so in the zeitgeist. It's so popular at the moment that as a gift, even to a non-whiskey drinker, they'll know that it means something. It's special. It's good to have on a bar card. It looks cool. So, they might, because they know of the popularity behind it, they might be kind of pushed to actually try and enjoy it, to be like, oh, what's the hype about kind of thing, because I think that's the thing with a lot of people. They'll try something that they know so many people enjoy and they're like, oh, I don't know about that, I don't understand, but they'll keep trying because there's such hype behind something. They'll be like, I want to know why. And just that perseverance in trying whiskey a few times, you develop develop more flavors, your palate gets used to it. So just that might tip someone into whiskey, into whiskeydom. Alright,
so for our fourth whiskey on the list, we're going for an Irish.
Yeah.
I put this down previously, but we're going for the Teeling rum cask. Teeling and Irish in general is very subtle. It's very friendly and approachable.
It's very popular.
Yeah, very popular, yeah.
They're doing really cool things in Ireland at the moment. I feel like they're exploring some new avenues, but because of the kind of policies and laws and regulations around whiskey making in other countries, they have more room. They have more room to try new things that other countries just don't have. They're not restricted to oak barrels. They can use whatever wood they want. So it means they've got more options, which is cool.
Creative freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Creative freedom. So now they're really, I think, getting into their own. They're feeling themselves. They're trying cool things and they're doing well. They're winning, awards and stuff. I think Teeling has won quite a few awards recently. Now Teeling, the regular one is very nice. It's not as smooth as maybe a Jameson. It's more complex. But I think this rum cask is fantastic because while it still adds a whole new layer of complexity and flavor, it's because it's rum, and rum is quite sweet and stuff anyway. It doesn't add much of a challenge. So So someone who knows Irish, has had Jameson and then tries this, they can really single out what the difference is. They can see the impact of the rum cask.
Yeah.
And just because it's not a brand that people associate with bottom shelf, and it's just what you get when you go to a restaurant if you drink Irish,
sure.
It's not Jameson or whatever. It's something a bit newer, a bit cooler. I think it warrants being a good whiskey gift, I think.
And also, if whoever you're buying for is a Jameson drinker, this isn't too much of a jump because of that rum cask. It's kind of like a little runway into a more complex whiskey, and it might even lead them into
marginally more challenging, but not.
Yeah, but I mean that rum finish, it kind of like
exactly.
Into
it softens it. It helps coax them along into it,
and it might enhance their whiskey journey.
Yeah, so I think Teeling is a fantastic distillery to go for, and specifically the rum cask for newcomers because it does add a more sweet but still complex and interesting layer.
Yeah,
that might, again, as you said, ease them into it a bit more. So Teeling, that's our number 5. 4? 5?
4.
4. Can't count. I thought you had one down there or something. Alright, we're going Starward next. Now the one we're pulling out is not the one we're going to talk about.
It's the only one we have.
But it's the only Starward we have at the moment. Now this is the Starward Nova, which we're going to do a review on very soon. Now the one we're talking about though is the Starward Twofold. Now this most likely, unless somehow you've gotten it somewhere else outside of Australia, this probably only applies to Aussies. Starward Twofold is so damn friendly and approachable, but still so tasty. Like it's not just boring butter and stuff. Like it's aged in red wine barrels and there's some complexity, but it's still it's just sweet and fruity and easy. There's no burn, there's nothing. It's 40% and it's not expensive. You can get it for around 60 bucks. Yeah, 65 bucks, 60 bucks. It's not expensive in Australia. I imagine it's a lot more if you find it anywhere else in the world. That's just the way things work. But if you're in Australia and you can find Starward, and specifically the Twofold, I think that's a fantastic gift because also, especially if you're an Aussie gifting an Aussie whiskey, it's like, it just kind of adds a bit more specialness, I think, we made this kind of mentality, it's...
And it can expand their world.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. So, Starward Whiskey, a fantastic distillery that's really gaining traction, and I'm glad they are because from what we've tasted, we've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And specifically Twofold, especially for newcomers, is very approachable. And I think anyone who likes really... my God, voice breaks, I can't get... Anyone who likes, Speyside and stuff can easily enjoy a Starward Twofold.
And it's got that red wine finish, so
yeah,
it's very creamy, very kind of fruity as well.
I feel like it's more fruity and approachable with the malt backed off, so it's even more approachable. Let's move on. That was number 5. Let's go to number 6.
Alright, for number 6, we are kind of delving into the Islay region.
Yeah, this is something smoky.
We've gone for the Bowmore 10. Let me just grab it for you. What's different about the Bowmore 10 to other Bowmores is that it's finished in sherry casks.
Yeah.
So
it's Spanish sherry casks. Oloroso and Pedro Menez, I believe.
This is for people that you kind of expect that not even that you expect to drink Islay, that you might want to broaden their horizons or something.
Maybe they've mentioned they want to try a smoky whiskey or something, but you know that they're not too experienced, so you kind of want to add that sherryness, the sherry finish to kind of like
ease their way into it.
Yeah, soften out those edges to make it a little bit more
drinkable.
Yeah, a little bit more approachable. And it's a good one. I like Bowmore as a distillery in general. I think that the 12 is fantastic. Yeah. It's just a medium, average level of peat, but nothing, super briny and stuff. It's got a good amount of character and it's affordable. And this one I think I like even more just because I'm a big fan of sherry finishes. And I think, like what we said, I think it will help people who are not sure if they will like smoky whiskies actually like it. It does soften out edges. And price-wise, it goes from, it's about 100. This is
that's a litre bottle.
Yeah, this is the litre bottle. It's a travel. It started off as a travel edition. I believe it's a lot more widely accessible now.
Yeah.
The 10. So you can probably get it for about 90 bucks. I don't know. Yeah, probably about that, I'd say.
And it's well worth it.
It's good. Well. Yeah, I think it's worth it. It's worth the gift. It's worth it to buy if you're thinking about it yourself as well.
Even for Islay drinkers, this is...
Yeah, definitely.
It's a very nice whiskey.
Alright, so the next one, we wanted to add, because it's a top 8. I don't even know, we might have misspoken and said top 10, I don't even know. It's a top 8, and I wanted to give a special mention to one of our favourite bourbons of this year, which I think would go great as a gift whiskey, which is the Woodford Reserve Double Oak. Woodford is already a perfectly fine gift whiskey, just the base of Woodford Reserve bourbon. It's very nice, it's very balanced, it's got a nice amount of spice and stuff to it.
Yeah.
So it's quite complex at the same time. But the Double Oak this year, I'm not sure about other years because I haven't seen much hype about it in other years. But this year, man, I've seen a lot of people talk about it, and I see why, because we loved it. It was like creme brulee. It was like the regular Woodford with their, the herbal and complex notes. But if someone I don't know, it's as if it was, they've added notes of creme brulee and a heavy amount of brown sugar. And it, even though it makes it maybe, I'd say more complex, like more layers, it makes it actually more approachable, which you think, as you go up in price and age and all that sort of stuff, you normally get less approachable. But this one, man, was one I always want on my bar card. It is so tasty.
I'd never even heard of it before this year. I picked it up, I think. I think
you bought it. Yeah, you did buy it.
Bought it home, we both immediately fell in love with it.
We've got a review up on our channel if you want to see a specific review on it, because we really did enjoy this.
Rewoo. That's what you said.
Rewoo.
But yeah, as you said, it's weird because you would expect it to be more complex.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the double... I can't remember. How do they even do it? I can't even remember. Is it that they age it normally within normal size barrels, and then they finish it off in, I think, brand new hogsheads, oak hogsheads. It's almost like the second time they've run it through. It's not eliminated the characters. It's just brought them down, and it's more like enriched, and they're more intertwined. Soft and more edges. It's like that extra bit of time it's spent. Kind of just made them get to know each other even better, those flavours. It's just sanded down the edges. I don't know, but it's very good, especially the 2020 bottling. I'm not sure what deviation there is, but this year's one was very good. I'm a big fan of it. And I think because Woodford Reserve as a distillery, as a name, is well known, people, even if, like we've said about a few of the others, even if they're not super into whiskey, will still know the name and say, oh, this isn't, the base level one, this is a more... elite version of it, that's special, I like it kind of mentality. Yeah. So flavour and kind of just, what do you call it, I don't know, just perception, I guess, are both ticked off on this one, I think. And even if you can't get this, the Woodford Reserve by itself, like the normal one, that's also a very good, perfectly fine choice. It's even cheaper than this one. Yeah. It's probably the more known. How much is this one? I think it was 80? Yeah, 70, 80 bucks. I think it was about 80 bucks. Whereas the normal Woodford's about 60. Yeah. But both of them very good. They both are classic bourbons. Probably the non-double oak one is probably the more classic one. Yeah. But this one just more friendly. It just sands up its edges and it makes it. It's just beautiful. This one. Yeah. All right. So for our final whiskey, we have gone for another Scotch. It's a fancy Scotch that is relatively cheap. I want to leave this one last because it's the something fancy. For the person who likes the fancy stuff. There it is. They like the fancy stuff, but not sure if they really actually drink the whiskey itself, or they're into whiskey at all. We went for the Macallan 12 Fine Oak. This whiskey, what's that on there? I love this whiskey. It's delicious. It's nice, yeah. It's a Macallan. You can't go wrong with Macallan. That's with your wallet. Sometimes you can go wrong with Macallan. Yeah, this is about 120 Australian dollars. Yeah. So it's on the more expensive end of the list. Yeah. But it's well worth it. This or the double. I think it's called the double wood. I think it's a double wood. Or is it double oak? I don't know. I think it's double something. It's the same age, same everything. Yeah, they've just. This one's the barreling. Definitely, I much prefer this one. I think this one's nicer as well. It's definitely more friendly. But this one we chose it because
while it is a very good whiskey in itself, you know, flavour-wise, it's perfectly fine. But the kind of status that Macallan's name has in society is that it is premium. You know, I know people who call themselves whiskey people who only drink Macallan, and it's a bit of a, I mean, whatever goes. If that's your thing, that's fine. But, you know, it's not, money to flavour doesn't, but it's whatever, it doesn't matter. But this is a good gift for people who kind of want something fancy, want a name that they know of.
Yeah.
You know, they want to put it on their bar cart and people to see it and think, you know, yeah, he likes Macallan. He's, you know, got a developed whiskey palate. He's a fancy boy, you know, he likes that kind of stuff.
It's kind of along the lines of the Glenfarclas AT.
Yeah, with the age, yeah.
It's, Glenfarclas has got the age on its side, whereas Macallan's got the name.
The name, yeah.
And I would probably go Macallan over Glenfarclas in terms of taste, flavour, and all that kind of stuff anyway. It's basically everyone's bar cart. Everyone's into
Everyone
whiskey.
knows Macallan.
Yeah, exactly. It's in every movie known to man.
Yeah.
It is the whiskey to have.
Yeah, it's just like if you're like, you know, in what's it called, Suits, like, you know, if they drink their fancy scotch, it's Macallan, and it's just known to be fancy. The name says something. It says something about you if you drink it. Well, it's meant to. You know, I think that's what some people think.
Yeah.
So I think that it warrants being a good gifting whiskey if you're really unsure about whether they even want whiskey, but you think it could be a cool gift to give. If you want it to have a bit more extra cool factor, land a bit more positively, if you know that person likes some fancy stuff, they're a label person, Macallan is the way to go, and I think this one, the Fine Oak, is a good choice.
And it's relatively cheap as well.
Yeah, for Macallan, this is definitely the affordable end, $125-ish.
That's AU.
Yeah, but I think that's it. That's our top 8 recommended whiskey gifts. And meanwhile, you got to take into account that this is our completely subjective
These are our
opinions. If you disagree, then yeah, you're right. There's nothing right or wrong.
Let us know
this is what
we
tell us what you think would be a better version if you've got something else in mind. Because this is just out of the things we've got, we thought would be great for a list. But do let us know if you think there's some better recommendations. But don't take this as gospel. If you know, like this is just our opinions, but we're also quite experienced. So you know, we might be overlooking things and might be some oversights. But either way, if you did enjoy this, if this does benefit you, please do like this video. If you want to see future episodes from us, like our top 5 bourbons, which are going to come up soon, do consider hitting that subscribe button. If you do, we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.
Cheers.